Cool. Okay, so flip to the video view, Dave, the video and the slide deck. Okay, John, lapel mic up. Okay, we're live. So, hello everyone here and at home watching the live stream. This is the 2017 MEDIAL user group. My name's Rob Thomas. The agenda was mailed out to people on email yesterday, so we're going to be running through MEDIAL v5 to begin with, which I'm going to do right now. Ryan Jesperson's here from Wowser. He's going to be doing a presentation after me on an update on Wowser technology. Then we've got some customer showcases, one from UCL here in London, one from London Metropolitan University, and one from University of Brighton. And then a lot later, I'm going to be doing a presentation on version 6 of MEDIAL, a preview of all the new bits and pieces that we've got in that. So, without further ado, I'm going to start my presentation on version 5. So, actually, before I do that, show of hands in the room, who's actually upgraded to version 5 that's here? So it's about half of the people that are here. So kind of almost. Maybe they've done like a non-production environment upgrade. So yeah, V5's out now. We've had, Dave would probably be able to give a better steer on this than me, but I think we've had about a third of the customers upgrade now, something like that. He's nodding his head. So, and generally it's been pretty smooth. So if you're out there and you're watching this and you're on V4, go for it, upgrade to V5. Absolutely nothing to worry about. That's in quote marks from Dave here. So V5, I'm going to run through it because a lot of the time what happens is people upgrade and they don't know all of the stuff that's in the version that they've upgraded to. And also we add bits and pieces as we go, and I kind of add to my slide deck for V5 as well. So version 5 of MEDIAL. As a lot of people know, we've kind of grouped the product into these 3 areas now. So we've got library, live, and learning. So library is really kind of what a lot of our customer base use is the library, which is kind of like the YouTube interface of the software and permissioning content in that way. Live is kind of a new area, I would say, for the product, and an area that we don't see huge amounts of people kind of doing live streaming, but it's a kind of new area that's becoming more popular. And we have an app in that area as well that people are starting to use. And then learning is probably the most popular area of our software, where we have links into the various LMS systems that are out there, so Moodle, Blackboard, Canvas. So the library, what's new on the library side? So it's a completely new look and feel, as most people have probably noticed when they've upgraded. It looks totally and utterly new. It's a fully responsive interface as well. So I'm going to come out of the slide deck and go into a browser and just show it to you there, because that's a bit more useful than just showing it here. So this is the interface here, as I said, totally responsive. So as we make this bigger and smaller, it's going to respond to the different size that I'm making it. If we go to the player, I'm going to go to Ollie's video because he's here today and he loves me going to these videos. The player's much, much bigger. We're using the JW Player 7. JW Player 8 is actually out now. We will be using that in version 6 of our software. And I'll talk about why JW Player 8 is good a little later on. We have adaptive bitrate in the player as well. So if I go, where are we? Play this, you'll see here, I won't play it, but you'll see here we've got all of the different resolutions that the clip can play back at, in this case 720p, 430p, etc. So this is a really relevant point if you're on version 4. So when you upgrade from version 4 to version 5, what happens is all of the embed code that you put already, whether that's in Blackboard or Moodle or just on the web or wherever, all of that embed code that you put somewhere becomes this new embed code with this nice new player with the adaptive bitrate control. So what a lot of people might have done is embedded something at a lower quality because they were, kind of scared that people had not very good internet connections, and they want to kind of retrospectively go and change that. Well, you don't need to do that in a kind of changing an embed code way. This will just automatically update, because this is effectively when you've embedded this in a web page, you've embedded an iframe, and we're just changing the contents of that iframe when you upgrade to version 5. So if nothing else, upgrade to V5 just for this, because you're going to get a nice shiny new player and you're going to get the adaptive bitrate control, which will mean that, it doesn't matter on the person's connection speed, the content will play back flawlessly. Also, in the player, we've got playback speed as well, so above and so faster and slower than real time. I had a lot of questions about this when I've demoed this visiting customers in the UK, and sort of rolled their eyes a bit at this. In the US, this is a huge thing to kind of have this playback control. It's a trend really that younger students, or whatever generation you want to call them, are expecting things to play back faster than real time. And there's things like lynda.com that are out there that do it as well online. The reason why, it's fairly self-evident, but you can watch an hour-long video in half an hour. And actually, as soon as you kind of tune into the fact that the audio sounds a bit scary to begin with, your brain does attune to it and it adjusts, and you can still assimilate the same amount of information. I haven't seen any empirical evidence that suggests that that is the case, but anecdotally, people just say after a while you just get used to it, and actually it's a time saver. So yeah, that's kind of a big thing in the US, becoming more prevalent here. Although, yeah, we do get some laughs when we play back the audio. I'm not going to play back Ollie's video at a chipmunk speed, because he's here today. So that's the player. Big improvements there. And again, totally, where we are, drag it. It's responsive as well. And this player becomes responsive as well when it's embedded into Moodle and Blackboard and all of those other places. So there's no problems in terms of, we get a lot of people that watch this video on an iPhone now. They're using Moodle on an iPhone. I'm not entirely sure why half the time, because the Moodle site doesn't render that well on that particular device, but there's lots of new different themes and things that are responsive, and if you've got a responsive video, that will work really well in that respect as well. So that's that. There's a different look and feel as well. So we've got this kind of light and dark look and feel. So most people will have it on the dark one. I think the dark one looks better. It's just personal preference. When I demo V6 later, I'm going to do it in the light look and feel. The other thing that we've got coming in V6, and I'll talk a bit more about it later, is we've got a kind of accessible look and feel coming as well. So we're working with one of our customers in the US, so that the contrast of the icons, color schemes, etc., are built to be accessible. It's not going to be a kind of look and feel that will be that great in terms of aesthetics, I don't think, but it will be one that's entirely accessible. And we're working with a customer to do that. We're actually working with a customer called Texas School for the Blind and Visually Impaired. So it's a really good use case for that in terms of getting everything accessible, and also on the player side as well. And I'll talk more about screen readers later on when we talk about version 6. We've got live channels exposed in the interface as well. We'll do live in just a second. Oh yeah, worth showing in the browser. Let's go to Chrome. Here, all of these kind of areas, these sort of associated files and chapters, it's much more kind of apparent what's going on there. Before, we were probably a bit guilty of not really kind of shouting about this stuff down the bottom. So here we can see there's a chapter, it's highlighted with this kind of ribbon. We can see there isn't an attachment, but if there was, we kind of have the icons here. So it's a much prettier interface, and we've definitely found that people have warmed to that, kind of hiding the embedding away, because we don't want the page to be very text heavy. We've done that. What were we going to say? Okay, no. Okay. This slide kind of illustrates a small change that we made to the software that I think has made a really big difference, especially in my use of the software. What I use it for is to put videos up about us, and also, for example, after this live event, we'll be putting up the videos of the live event onto our MEDIAL, and we probably want to do that relatively quickly. What this does is it says, when you upload a video to MEDIAL on version 4, it uploads a video, and then it has to do it at the different bit rates or the different qualities that you've assigned as an administrator. So it might have to do 3 different versions of the file, and then after it's done that, the clip goes live. And we kind of went to a lot of customers, and they were saying, look, there's quite a lot of queues developing here, especially around student submission times, because people are putting this stuff up, and it's taking quite a long time to get through. We can deal with that in one way, throwing more processing power and more transcoders at it, but that costs you as a customer more money. So one kind of quick fix that we found was really there wasn't any reason to wait for those 3 files to be ready to put the file live. We could easily get away with just making the HD one transcode and then make the clip available. And as soon as that was available, it would make the player available, and it would do the other 2 afterwards, and then the embed code would refresh once the other 2 were ready. So you'd kind of get that adaptive bitrate player with the 3 qualities. That would show, a little bit after the event, but the HD playback would play straight away, as soon as the HD version's available. So what you should get with that is it being about 60-odd% faster, because you're only having to transcode 1 file before the file is made live, not 3 files. And it does make a huge difference. I mean, when I upload stuff, I find that it just goes in there very, very quickly. And the good thing as well is, because we've done it with a HD version of the file, most of the stuff that's captured these days is captured at HD, 720p or 1080p. So what the transcoder has to do with that file is very little. There's not much compression to do. There's not much going on. So it does get it done very, very quickly. So that's a kind of a big gain for kind of a small change from our side, really. We've given a lot more flexibility over what you actually do in terms of output. So now what we're saying is, whatever input you put in, you can decide what you want the output to be. Before this was set, it was very prescriptive. We were just saying, yep, if you put that file in, it's going to do it at 3 different qualities. Now, that's not the case. So a good example of this would be, okay, if I upload a 720p file, do I even want to do it at this 360p? You might not. You might just say, well, look, most people have got a device that's capable of streaming about 720p. 480 is a kind of fallback. 360, what's the point? I mean, YouTube and various other platforms will do lots of different renditions of the file, but it's kind of up to you. It's up to your use case. It just saves on overhead, and it saves on the time taken for these things to happen. With the queue, what it does, so let's say you uploaded a HD file, and it does it at whatever qualities you're suggesting here. It will do HD only to begin with, and it will work its way through the queue doing a HD version of every single file that's in that queue, so that all of the files in the queue are made available as soon as possible. And then when there's nothing in the queue, it will work its way back retrospectively through the queue, doing the lower quality versions of all of those files that are already live. So it's much more efficient with what it does than what it was before, certainly. On the screen capture side, what we kind of recognized really with screen capture is a lot of time you can just pass it through. Screen capture is generally done at kind of HD quality. There's not really much point in us kind of messing around with a file or doing much with it. We may as well make it live straight away. So with screen capture, you can just say, look, if the content came in at 1080p or 720p, just let it pass through at that rate. We can only do that, though, with files that are a known quantity. So a lot of people have said to me, well, why didn't you just pass through a regular file that I produced using anything at 1080p or at 720p? So I produce my file, I upload it, I want it to go live straight away. The problem with that is there are so many different ways of producing files, and whether they would stream back or not, we don't know. So if somebody said, I'm using, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 encoder product, and I'm going to do it at 720p, we couldn't guarantee that that would stream because we don't know really. It's just hard for us to tell. With screen capture, we're supporting our product, which is the Media Lecture product, which I'll show in just a second. And we're supporting the TechSmith product, which is TechSmith Relay. In both of those cases, we know what the file is that's coming out of that system, and we know it will stream, so therefore we can pass it through. So I think Ollie from London Met, when he does his presentation later, he'll talk a bit about TechSmith Relay. And actually here on the lectern, I'm actually looking at some instructions on how to use TechSmith Relay. So it's being used here. And that works really well with our software. Equally with audio input, again, do you want to do it at this kind of very, very low quality rate, 44K? Possibly not. Internet connections are up to much more than that now. You can edit or delete a clip within the interface now. You couldn't do that before. This is kind of good as an admin if you just want to tidy up your interface and delete a lot of stuff just within the interface. I find it quite useful for that. But I do a lot of demos where I'm creating a lot of content I don't necessarily want later on. Adaptive bitrate we spoke about. Playback speed we already spoke about. Customization as well. You can make it look a lot nicer. You can have this lovely, big, 2,000 pixel wide header image like we've got on ours. You can choose not to do that. I mean, I've seen a lot of the ones that have been upgraded to V5 and they've decided not to have the header image. They've just had their logo. You can hide away the category menu if you want. So here on this particular one, I'm sure the guys will show theirs later, but this one, the categories are hidden away within this little menu. You can have that menu open by default as well if you want to. And this is our header image here. We toyed with the idea of putting some sort of animation in here, but it's just too heavy on the browser. It's not something that would work at scale. Lots that you can do there. Chapters as well. So before, when you created a chapter on a piece of media that you had the rights to see, anyone that had the rights to see that media would see your chapter. They wouldn't see that you'd created it, but it would have a whole bunch of chapters. Now you can create private chapters that only you'll see when you log in, which is kind of cool. We default to HTML5 now. Flash is going the way of the dinosaur. I mean, interestingly, the live stream that we're doing today, I don't think we're even doing a Flash fallback on it because just nobody's wanting it anymore. It's just not something that people want. And the browsers are dumping it, and it's quite hard to enable it, really, as people are probably finding out when they're trying to use Flash stuff in their browsers. It's very, very difficult to kind of get it to work consistently across all browsers. Is anybody still using a lot of Flash here? Has anybody got something that uses a lot of Flash still, like a kind of system that they've got, or is it gone, totally gone? Still got something that uses Flash, okay. Good luck. This is the reason why the browsers are dropping support for it, the mobiles are dropping support for it. So this is on a kind of video on demand side. This slide may be slightly out of date now. This is the one that we had on the JW Player site. The reason why I say I think it may be out of date is this slide is out of date now. So this is talking about HTTP live streaming, actually doing live streaming HLS back to browsers. And it actually says on this slide that you can't do that to Chrome on a desktop. Well, you can, because I've just done it watching my live stream. So I know JW Player have kind of figured out a way of doing that, which is cool because what it means is when you do a live stream, you haven't really got to worry that much about, oh, well, Chrome would only support it in Flash, and there were some issues around that for a little while. Now those issues are kind of largely gone. So, yeah, I need to update the slide, maybe put the ticks in there. This is another one from the library side, which I think is really useful. I've had probably like 5 people almost want to come up and hug me because of this feature. So this is basically just permissioning within the interface. So the example here is, let's go in. So permissions, before what people would do is they kind of go into this sort of group level here, and they would assign permissions to a group. The problem with that is every time you add a new group to the system, you've got to go in and permission things, or every time you add a new category, which is probably the more relevant one, you then have to go into all of the different groups and say, oh, well, that particular category, I'm going to give that permission to that group, and then this group gets that permission, and it's difficult to do because a lot of the time it's by exception. You're adding a category and you're just saying, well, I only want these 3 to have it, really, or you might want all of them to have it, but it's still a difficult thing to go through and click through on this interface. So the way of doing it now, if we go into security and we go to this permissions tab here, what we'll see is if we'd created a new category, we would go to that new category, let's just call it this one, for example, and then we can pull across groups from here into here. So it's a very simple process. So if we wanted this CAF group to have, whatever access, we could do that. We could pull them across. So it's much, much easier to administer this way because you're effectively choosing the new category that you added, and then you're just pulling groups or users across from here to get that permission. The other thing that this is good for as well, let's say you wanted to try out a media lecture and you only wanted to assign it to a particular group, or you only want to assign it to a few users, let's say. You could do that. So we've done this quite a lot where Dave's upgraded people to V5 and they've said, oh, we'd really like to try out media lecture. We've got 5 academics who would really like to give it a go. Can you give us a trial for 30 or 60 days? Say, fine, absolutely, we'll do that. And then we just choose the users here. So we just type in, I don't know, let's type in Rob. And we find a whole ton of users in our demo system here. But if we let's type in Rob Thomas. It's not going to find me. Okay, let's type in streaming. I'm still going to find lots of users. Okay, no users. Maybe not. Find me. Okay, it's going to find all the Robs. Anyway, you get the idea. We would find all of the users there that we wanted to have access to Media Lecture, and we would pull them across. The other thing that you could do is with live channels. That's another good way of doing this, in that most people aren't going to want all of their users to be able to do a live stream. I mean, unless you're totally crazy. So you would only want to give that to certain people. So this is a really good way of permissioning it, because you can just go in and say, okay, John, yeah, I trust him to do a live stream. Let's stick him over there. Dave, I trust him to do a live stream. We'll stick him over there. You probably wouldn't want to do that on a group basis. So this now enables you to do it on a kind of individual user basis, which you could never do before. So that's one kind of cool thing, that you can permission stuff out. The other way of doing it as well is you can have these local groups and local users as well. What this is you have got users that aren't in AD or they aren't in LDAP, but they want to use Medial. So the use case normally of this is like an external examiner or somebody coming in that isn't in your directory services structure, and you want to add them. You can add them here as a local user, and they can still log into Medial. They don't have to be in AD or LDAP. So that's quite a big change, because what's happened in the past is people just say, I want this guy to upload videos to Medial. I don't want him to be an admin. I do want him to have access to it, but my directory services team are basically saying, look, he's only going to be at the university for 6 months. Or they're saying they don't want to do it for me because they don't like me, or whatever reason. There's people that have directory services, they're normally quite guarded over that because it's user data and all that sort of stuff, and it's difficult to get those groups and those users added. Like, for example, I see a lot of customers where they've added specific groups into AD and LDAP just to use Medial. I see that a lot. So the use case of just saying, well, you must already have these groups in AD that you can reutilize. A lot of time that doesn't happen because they're something as generic as staff and students. They're not that granular that you could actually do anything with them. So this use case of doing local users, you're having to set up local users, so it's not that scalable, but it still gives you that flexibility of doing that. So that's the permissions area. If we go back to the slide deck. Where were we? Oh, I think I'm doing this in 2 different versions of PowerPoint. No, that's Ollie's presentation. Where was I? I was here. Yeah, live. Okay, so live, new area of the product. We had live in V4, but it was a very, very simplistic workflow. It was literally point an encoder at MEDIAL, a channel page. As soon as your encoder's going, it will show the live stream. As soon as your encoder stops, it'll archive the file. That was it. So who in the room used that? Who used that through a MEDIAL playback page? Did anybody use that? Yeah, okay, a few. I mean, it wasn't amazing. I mean, it was a live stream through a channel. Some people are really impressed by that. But the workflow that we had wasn't as polished as what we've got in V5. And when I go on to V6 later, you'll see it's been added on top of as well. So the first thing to say here is we have an app called MEDIAL Live. So this is based on an app called the Wowzer Go Coder, which Ryan may talk about that in his presentation, possibly. I'd be interested to hear the roadmap on that actually as well. So this is a white label of that product. It enables you to stream from Android or iOS devices. So it could be an iPhone, could be an iPad, could be an Android tablet or an Android phone. And it just enables you to do a live stream simply by clicking on the big red button. So I'm going to do a demo from my phone, just showing you how simple it would be for me to just do a live stream right now of the room. And it is as simple as emailing a link to a user. That's it. So I'm going to email a link from this machine to my phone, click on the link, click on the big red button, and start streaming live. That's the plan, anyway. So how does it work? So we can permission live streaming to people. Where are we? Let's go into live. Actually, we're going to log in as Rob so that I can show you it from a sort of a general end user perspective rather than an admin perspective. Although a lot of the people here are admins, I know, and probably a lot of the people watching at home or in their office are admins. Okay, so we've got live streaming here. And this is Rob's live channel that's been set up for Rob. So we go to edit that. And we've got this switcher thing here. So if I expand that out, it's probably nicer to see it that way. So the guts of this is effectively, I've got a playback page. So if I go and get my playback page up, let's go and get it. Destination, no, it's in source, isn't it? Let's go open link a new tab. So I've got a playback page. It's actually playing the live stream that I obviously did as a test yesterday because it's archived it, which is good. It's a good sign. Let's start up a new session. So we've kind of blatted what I've done before, which we've done. So go to preview, or go to switcher actually, not available. Okay, so I've got the ability to switch what shows on a playback page. So this is my playback page. This is the URL that I would hand out to people. And you can have 2 different versions of this player page. This is the player page in MEDIAL. And you can also have a kind of a clean playback page. So this is more the way that I think this is the way we're doing the live stream today. We might be actually, I can't remember which way I set it up, but you can have a clean playback page that isn't within MEDIAL. It doesn't have all the MEDIAL stuff going on around it. So you can have 2 different versions of the page. But the theory goes is basically whatever you do here in the switcher then changes on the playback page. So if we flip to pre-event 1 stage, that's because I haven't started that. Switcher. Okay. So if we flip to the pre-event 1 stage, all that I've done is I've defined it to be an image, which is just showing an icon and just telling people when the live stream would start. So if any of you probably got the link for the live stream today, and when you got it, you may have clicked on it. A lot of people do. They just click on the live stream because they think, oh, they know it's not live, but I wonder what's there. So this is sort of what you show before the live stream started. So I think our what we were showing was a pre-roll video on that live stream. So when you clicked on it, you got a pre-roll video. So we'd sort of gone one stage further than this, just a picture. Maybe if you'd have gone to it a week ago, it might have shown a picture on the lead up to the event. So as we got closer to the event, we flipped over to what we wanted to show maybe an hour before or something like that. And then we got the pre-roll video. So that's what we were doing on our live stream, the one that's going out now. We were showing a pre-roll video up until the live event happened. And then when the live event happened, we flipped to the live event. And this playback page changed to the live event. So that's what we're gonna do now. This way of doing it, flipping it here, the page, this is a kind of an administration function almost. It's like, let's say you gave this live channel out to somebody and you said, you can control it here. Realistically, would an end user do this? Probably not. So what you could do is you could schedule it to do these things at certain times. So you could say, okay, I've given this live channel page to my end user. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to show the pre-roll video until they click go. And that's it. Or I'm just going to show an image until they click go. Or at 11 o'clock, I'm going to show a pre-roll video, and I've told them to click on the button at 12 o'clock, and I'll show the live stream. It wouldn't really matter whether they clicked on the button dead on 12, because it would show an image before they did that. But they would at least know when I click on that button, it'll change what's shown on the page. So there's loads of different ways of slicing and dicing this. This way that I'm showing you here is more like we're doing a graduation or something. We've got the playback page running. We want to show different things at different times. We don't want the live feed to be up yet. We just want to be showing something. And you can test this ahead of time as well. So here, we're on the switcher. This is like what's happening live on the page. But we can preview this as well. So let's say we want to preview our live stream once we get it going and just see it's actually there, because we probably wouldn't want to switch it until it's actually running. So let's do that. Let's send a link to myself and let's see it running before we switch it over. So this is kind of where we come to sort of a low-level end-user point of view where you can actually get somebody involved in this. If we went here and went to the source, we can share the link to this channel and share a link that will automatically set it up on their phone. So I know that I've got iOS on my phone, so it's an iPhone. If I click email, how was I going to do this? I thought I was going to. I did have something set up. All right, let's go with that. There we go. Cool. Right, so that's the email that goes out here. So it's basically saying, look, to set it up, click on your big red button. You've got to click on this link and then click on the big red button. So this is the link that pre-configures everything. It puts all the settings into the phone, ready to go. They don't have to click anything other than the red button. And then it tells them, look, you're on iOS. If you haven't got the app, go here. You can download it. And your live stream is viewable at these two links here. So let's send that to me. And I'll click on it on my phone. Send. I couldn't get my phone to reflect onto this PC, so I apologize for that. We did do it in the dry run, but it didn't work after that. So, okay, so if I go to my email, I've got that come through. And then I'm going to click on this link that will pre-configure it all on my phone. It's actually saying to overwrite the settings because I've done this demo about 1 million times. And now I've got this going here. So I'm going to click to stream live. I'm going to point it at Dave just to embarrass him. And then I'll go back to the director, and we didn't want to put it live yet. We just wanted to put it live right there in the preview. And then if we go to the switcher, because we know it's running, and we flip to the live here, it'll play back the live feed, pause that one, and then we go here. We've got the live feed playing on our player. When we stop it, you can see it goes back to an image in this case. And then what happens behind the scenes is it's archiving that video. So if we go here, we will save the changes because that'll be useful for my next presentation. And we go to the content listing, the item, I mean, it's not come in right yet, but it will come into the queue, it'll archive that out, and then what I've set my channel to do is to play the archive of the live stream immediately after it's transcoded it. So it's kind of a full workflow. You can be as simple or as complex as you want with it. You could say, I mean, to a regular end user, I would probably just set them up a channel page, and I would say, when you click on the button, it'll show a live stream. When you stop it, it'll show an image. But for a graduation or for a big event, you would want to have that pre-roll, that post-roll, the archive of the live event. You want to do all of those things. The other good benefit as well about this is if we use the playback page in MEDIAL, the kind of the full playback page that has the whole MEDIAL interface, you'll see that all of the previous live streams that I've done, testing this from my desk with lots of wires and keyboards and stuff, you'll see they're archived down the bottom here. So the use case of this might be, I'm thinking, you know, I'm looking at UCL actually because they do these kind of lunchtime lectures that are continuous live events, although I know you guys embed it on a site and everything, but you could have those sessions down the bottom there. So this could almost be a teacher's page or a room assigned to this page, so you can see all of the previous live streams that have gone on in that particular room or been done by that particular teacher as well. So we'll leave that up because we can see the archive of that coming through in a minute. Go back to our slide deck. Another thing to say here is, again, if you tuned into the live stream, you'd have seen that, you know, you've got these videos running, the event will begin soon, the event's concluded, etc. These are kind of videos that are baked into the product now. They're pre and post-roll videos. You know, you can use these if you want to. There's no royalties or whatever on these particular clips. They're the clips that we've created and paid for. So if you didn't want to create your own, you could use those. Equally, any video in MEDIAL you can use as a pre and a post roll. So anything that you upload yourself, you can use when you set it up. I haven't showed a lot of the configuration of the live channel because there's quite a lot of detail there. But you know, we've got full documentation on this, and we're happy to show you how it works. And we're doing a lot more live streaming at the moment than what we ever did actually. So hence the reason why we're doing it ourselves today. That's the kind of the clean playback page that I showed, and then there's one in MEDIAL. You can do adaptive bitrate streaming as well in the player. One pointer that I would make here if you want to do adaptive bitrate streaming through your MEDIAL, and Dave will probably advise this as well on upgrade, is you should probably separate your Wowzer instance off from your MEDIAL, because adaptive bitrate live streaming is very, very processor intensive. So, you know, if you haven't got a machine that's got lots and lots and lots of cores, then you should probably separate the Wowzer part off from the MEDIAL part if you want to do adaptive bitrate live streaming. If you just want to do pass-through, where literally your stream that you did, like what I did, my phone was pushing it at 2.5 megabits per second. The player played it back at 2.5 megabits per second. If you wanted to do that, you wouldn't need to separate Wowzer off because it's not processor intensive at all. And you can define, you know, those resolutions there here in MEDIAL as well. You define what the input is. In our case today, our live stream input is 720p, and then you define the output. So I think we're outputting at 720p and 480p in our live stream today. It's just setting the source, it's just showing it. And then, yeah, you can share these settings via a device or via, we support the Telestream Wirecast product and the new tech TriCaster as well, in terms of a little XML file that you can feed into those products. So it's not just a link for a phone, you can use other encoders. If anybody's got any other encoders that they want us to support, let us know. If there's a way of doing it, we can put it in. We also pass through the Wowzer authentication now. So before, the live stream was quite awkward. You might have found when you had V4, you had to put usernames and passwords into Wowzer before it would work. Now you don't have to do that. We kind of override that. We've got a mechanism to override the sort of the source authentication, it's called, and Wowzer, so you don't need to do that anymore, which makes it better because you don't have to go into Wowzer, set up a user for Joe Blogs, go into Medial, set up a user. You don't have to do that. Learning. Blackboard and Moodle, we have those integrations still. The only thing that we introduced on Moodle was a feedback plugin, which enabled teachers to give feedback to videos that students had submitted. We support Canvas as well. Show of hands in the room, Blackboard people that are here. Okay, Moodle people that are here. Canvas people that are here. Okay, so we were probably about, it's almost like half and half with the Moodle and Blackboard, and then we've got one Canvas person. But that isn't, it's not a slight on the Canvas thing, because actually Canvas is becoming much, much more popular here in the UK and is wildly popular in the US. So yeah, there's a lot going on in that market. Probably not one for today, but maybe in a break, if you want to talk about LMS systems, we can do that. We have got some stuff coming on the line with Canvas as well in V6, but I'll go through that in my V6 presentation. Learning, so we've got Media Lecture, which is for Mac and for PC. I'll very quickly demo that, because I know we want to get on to Ryan. Where are we? Browser. I don't think I have it as a permission for that user, or do I? Let's have a look. I thought I did. Yes, I do. So Media Lecture, screen capture tool, something that really hadn't been on our roadmap to do a screen capture tool. But what happened was so many people just ask us all the time for a content creation tool. We're referring people all the time to other people. And really, we just thought we may as well do one ourselves, because it's something that people are always demanding, because the library does a really good job of holding and curating the content, but there's no content creation. So we've introduced this tool called Media Lecture, which allows you to do that. It's similar to a kind of TechSmith products in that it captures a screen. There are some differences as well, which I'll run through. So you can permission this out on a group or an individual basis. This is Mac or PC. So the Mac version is just something that someone would install themselves on their machine. The PC version, we have two versions of it. One that you install on your own machine if you were at home, let's say. One that you can roll out on your network as a redistributable installer, like an MSI file is what most desktop services people are after, and you can roll that out organization-wide. It's available as a site license so that you can roll it out to all of your desktops. Once they have it and they have the permission, they click here to open it, and this gigantic or this big record icon. It then opens it up, and we've got various options. We can record screen and webcam, voice, or just webcam. I don't have a webcam rigged up to my little Intel NUC that I'm using here, so I'm just going to record the screen. There are some settings here, so you can decide where it records to. You can select a webcam. You can select the recording quality of the camera, the recording quality of the screen, the mic, etc. I don't have many of those things because I'm using this little NUC device. Let's just select the screen. We can select the screen that we want to capture or the area of the screen. Click on record. This then counts us down. So we're now recording. So most users would go into a PowerPoint or something like that, capture their slides, go through that, maybe go to a browser. Let's go to something that isn't Medial. See how Prince Harry's getting on. That's all that's in the news these days, isn't there? BBC, go to that. No, it's worse than that. Prince Harry's been dropped for some horrible MP. So you can draw on the screen as well with these drawing tools. I'll talk about annotations a bit later because we've got that coming. You could pause it, or you could just say you're done. Let's say we're done. At this point, we're effectively top and tailing the video, or we're chopping bits out of the video, or adding titles and credits. Won't do any of that, just down to time. Then we click done. I'm just going to add some spurious text in here. And then you're deciding, where do I want it to go? Which category do I want it to go in? So we will put it in my personal category. That will turn up in Moodle and Blackboard. Oh dear, wait an hour at least. That will turn up in my Moodle or Blackboard, or I could just put it in whatever categories I've got access to do. So we'll click on Upload. On London Met's super fast network, that goes up there very, very quickly. And then I click on the link, and it's there, ready to play back straight away. So that is kind of the really cool thing about it is, as I was producing the file, you can see Prince Harry. It was about Prince Harry. We won't go to that. So as I was capturing the file on my machine, as I was doing my presentation there, it was capturing the file locally on my machine as an MP4 file. And then at the end, I just uploaded it. There was no transcoding to do, so there's no waiting around at all. That's it. It's there. It's ready. It's done. That's probably the best thing about it as a product, that file's ready to go. You're not going to put any load on your server. So for student assessments and things like that, you could literally have hundreds of students submitting stuff at the same time. It wouldn't matter. It would be ready straight away with the media lecture way of doing it. In this case, I passed it through. It'll probably do a couple of different qualities of that. The question I get asked most, two questions I get asked most about this. One, what sort of machine do you need to do it? That must be really heavy on the processor, etc. The testing that we've done when we've used it would suggest that it doesn't have to be a particularly great machine. It's not as processor intensive as what you would think. Maybe a Core i5 machine would be fine to do it. We can give you exact specs if you need them. I have seen quite a lot of Core i3 machines as I've traveled the country this year, so it's not to say that there aren't machines out there that aren't capable of doing it. But yeah, Core i5 and above would be fine. The other question that I get a lot on it is the file size as well. So the file size here, it's 400 megs per hour of video. And I think from memory that was at 720p. So at 1080p it would be slightly more than that. It might be between 500 and 600 megs per hour of video. So it's pretty heavily compressed. It looks very good. You know, this text is very, very sharp here. You're unlikely to get something looking much better than that. This is actually at 720p. I don't think I had it at 1080p when I was doing it. And it would be there straight away in Moodle and Blackboard if I went to those and went to my personal category. Back to the slide deck. Where were we? Media lecture. Some news on TechSmith Relay as well. I kind of alluded to it at the start. We pass through clips from TechSmith Relay now. So if you have that product, we're not retranscoding something that TechSmith give us, which saves a bit on time. It's not going to be as quick as Media Lecture because they are compressing something from your computer on their server before sending it to us. So you need another server, and it's compressing the file. So there will be more of a delay with that, but we are at least supporting that in a much better way than what we were, because it was a very sort of laborious process before I thought. So Media Lecture just goes up there straight away, as I said, because it processes it on the machine. And that's it for V5. So I think, Dave, we can go to a short intermission, and then we can kill the audio on the live stream. John?